On what has become known as Battle of Britain Day, 15 Hamdens from 83 Squadron took off from Scampton between 9:30 and 10:20 that historic evening. Their target was several basins along the French and Belgian coast, packed full of barges earmarked to transport the Wehrmacht across the Channel. Among the 15 crews were two men who would later be awarded the Victoria Cross, Flying Officer Guy Gibson of Dambuster fame, and an 18-year-old Scottish WOP, Sergeant John Hannah, who would earn his within hours. While flying over Antwerp, Hamden P1355 was hit by anti-aircraft fire and burst into flame. Navigator Sergeant Hayhurst and rear gunner LAC James quickly abandoned the aircraft, but Hannah and his Canadian skipper, Pilot Officer Connor, remained aboard. In a later interview, they recounted what happened next.
We were over Antwerp when we were hit by a large shell. It burst in the bomb compartment and made a very large hole. I could see we were in danger when the flames were reflected in my windscreen. I stood up here, and the flames were getting very close to the back of my neck. Almost at the same time, Sergeant Hannah called me on the intercommunication and said,
"I told my captain the aircraft was on fire. He asked me if it was very bad. Well, I had a look around and replied it's bad, but not too bad."
This reassured me, and I felt sure that Sergeant Hannah would be able to cope with it. Tell them, Sergeant, how you managed to avoid being suffocated.
First I put my oxygen mask on, but the fumes were too strong for it, and I had very difficult to breathe. So eventually I took it off, and I went into the upper cockpit, opened the turret and slung my guns round, and came up for some air. I did this 2 or 3 times.
It was there that the fire was the fiercest. Thousands of rounds of ammunition were exploding all over the place, and it's a wonder to me how Sergeant Hannah managed to be missed by it.
Well, sir, I have not yet stopped wondering how they missed you. Most of them seem to be going in your direction.
I was too busy taking evasive action against the heavy anti-aircraft fire that was coming up to pay much attention to that.
Well, I noticed them, sir, and I'm glad they missed you. Otherwise, neither of us would be here now.
The events of that night would affect the rest of John Hannah's life, which was extremely short. Contracting TB the following summer, Hannah was invalided out of the service. Over the next 6 years, he found it almost impossible to work to support his young family, and by the 7th anniversary of his historic night over Antwerp, he lay dead in a Leicester sanatorium.